and welcome to On Point. I'm Brett Teal. Today we'll be discussing eating disorders, specifically on college campuses. The National Eating Disorders Association estimates 11 million people are affected by eating disorders. Many of those affected are college students. Here at Cal State Northridge, people struggling with their eating have an array of resources available to them. Joining me to talk about the causes, warning signs, and forms of treatment are Dr. Joyce Gilbert, Executive Director of the Maryland Magrum Center on campus, and a registered dietitian, Miho Yamada, and Darlene Balcom, both of whom are from the Joint Advocates on Disordered Eating. Now, I want to start by discussing the difference between disordered eating and eating disorders. We often hear the terms used interchangeably, but they shouldn't be, should they, Darlene?
No, because the eating disorder spectrum, there's the continuum, where there is the healthy eating, the disordered eating, and the eating disorders. So what happens is that when you're in healthy eating, of course, you eat when you're hungry. Your pleasure, the food is pleasurable and you just eat it. When it's disordered eating, you have like the yo-yo dieting. Sometimes, like for example, people will use like cabbage diets or Atkins diets, and then they'll be like, oh, I need to go to the gym because I ate a lot of food today. And so then they'll eat, then go to the gym, then eat, then go to the gym, or, and so forth. After that, between the eating disorders and disordered eating, there's a fine line where sometimes people see the results and they want to actually take control of that. And sometimes when a trigger comes along, like, oh, they said I look better, I look good, I lost weight, they actually continue with that diet. And sometimes it could turn to anorexia, where they will starve themselves, or will turn to bulimia, where they actually will throw up because they don't want to give up that food, or it could turn to binging, where they don't want to give up their food, they won't starve themselves, but they'll just eat, 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 but no purge.
So, Dr. Gilbert, I guess there's a fine line, like Darlene said, between healthy eating and disordered eating. And the American Psychiatric Association, they only recognize anorexia and bulimia. But what I'm hearing is that people who may be showing signs of disordered eating, just because they can't be clinically diagnosed doesn't mean something's not wrong, right?
Oh, correct. And that would be a wonderful answer. Mine would have been just to augment that. When you look at the APA, you really look at that full spectrum. And where, as a registered dietitian, where I start really looking is, we look at the diagnosis of anorexia nervosa and the diagnosis of bulimia, and you understand there's criterion set for that, but it's that subclinical area that she was referring to that is a little bit more difficult. And so when you're looking at treatment protocols, you want to look at what kinds of symptoms they're describing that maybe don't put them entirely into one of those diagnoses, but actually does put them at risk for moving from an eating pattern that's not helpful into a disordered eating or into eating disorder. Mm-hmm. So.
And on CSUN, as I said, college is a stressful time. Miho, how many students here on campus are affected by eating disorders?
Well, we have statistics that show that 60% of students who surveyed knew at least or had someone in their life who had eating disorders, and also 28% of them who surveyed that they had eating disorders or has eating disorders, and within 28%. 10% of them are actually male.
Mm-hmm. And as I was mentioning, Darlene, college is a time where people are susceptible to developing these, right? Because of all the stress, anxiety, and social pressures.
Yeah, I was going to say, with the statistics, that statistics actually is not recent. Those are actually before. So like, you can only imagine that now, especially with media and everything involved, that the statistics are actually higher. So, I think I've been affected by it myself. I know that I've been affected my whole life. So when I was actually born, I've always been a big kid, and I've been pushed into having to fall under a certain structure of how to be a certain size, a certain weight, and then that really jumped for me, and that's why I got into sports. And I got into sports because I knew it would save my life from being overweight. But the thing is, when I went to the doctors, they basically told me, if you keep on doing what your lifestyle is doing, you'll have a heart attack by the time you're 18. And that scared me, so that actually reinforced me to lose weight even more. And so when that reinforced it for me, you're telling a little kid this, you're telling a 10-year-old that you have to lose weight. And that doesn't really come into a 10-year-old's mind like, oh my gosh, I have to lose as much weight as possible. And when you go into basketball, I started like, I didn't want to give up food, you know, but thing is, I didn't binge and purge, I just binged. And I'm like, okay, well then I'll work it off later. So I would run extra miles, or I'll go to the gym even more. I'll do even more to make sure those calories are done. So people don't notice that, especially on campus, people eat, but they're actually kind of bulimic if they actually over-exercise to the point where they're actually taking a lot of calories out of their body that's needed for them.
And is this what sort of made you want to get involved with JADE?
Yeah, I mean, like, just not just for myself, but I have friends who have been models. I have had actor friends. I had friends who are so self-conscious of their weight, and my mom's a nurse too, so I started reading her books, and I thought it was very, very interesting, and a lot of people don't understand that eating disorders is actually so common on college campus. There's sororities been involved. There's girls who want to look good for guys. There's guys who want to look good for girls, and so forth. You know, that the population on this campus is so different, and the culturally diversity, like, you know, people think it's only whites. No, it's actually with everyone, especially Asian Americans. So, you know, it's been really affected, and, you know, that, you know, we're both here to go to different, like, classes and actually really talk about our experience within it too.
And you mentioned that eating disorders are a cross-racial problem. Now, when we hear about eating disorders, we often think of it as a white America problem. Dr. Gilbert, would you agree that eating disorders are beginning to cross racial lines?
Oh, absolutely. I think Darlene brought up a very valid point. I don't think it's gender specific, and I certainly don't think it's culturally specific. I think that moving certain cultures into our culture in terms of America definitely takes its toll, because the media is a little different here in terms of what we find attractive and what we don't find attractive, and how that media approaches those particular types of body builds. And so I think as a result of that, we see a different way in which it's expressed in terms of eating disorders here as it might be in someone's native country, but they're certainly not left untouched by that.
And you touched on the media and the standards of attractiveness that are portrayed, but most of the time these ads are digitally altered, and they establish these perceptions of attractiveness which are impossible to achieve. What do you make of that, Miho?
Well, the statistic shows that individuals see 400 ads per day. And out of those 400 ads, a lot of them actually send like message that about certain way of beauty, and like something like dieting or something about makeup and things like that. Like, for example, like this product will make you lose weight, or this product make you look better and things like that, and not necessarily true. And some people are not really aware that a lot of stuff on the media is photoshopped and edited in really clever way, actually. Like, if you have seen the Onslaught YouTube clip, like they show how people Photoshop and things like that, and effect of media and things. It's pretty amazing to me how technology works. But at the same time, it's really sad that not many people are really aware that all these things that we see on the media actually is not really real.